Fertilization is the fusion between ovum and sperm occurring in the fallopian tube. The result of this union is the production of zygote or fertilized egg. The sperm migrates through the corona radiata before it reaches the zona pellucida. One component of zona pellucida functions as the sperm receptor. The binding of the sperm to the zona pellucida induces the acrosomal reaction, which causes acrosomal vesicle in the head of sperm to release hydrolytic enzyme. This enzyme digests a pathway through the zona pellucida and the sperm reach the plasma membrane of secondary oocyte. Penetration of the sperm to the zona pellucida leads to fusion of sperm and oocyte plasma membrane. The sperm cell diffuse with ovule produce the zygote. Zygote will now travel from the fallopian tube to the uterus where it will reside for the development of the baby.
About 6 days after fertilization, the blastocyte loosely attaches to the endometrium, a process called implantation. About 8 days after fertilization, the thomboplast develops into 2 layers, a syncytiothomboplast and a cytothomboplast. Cells of the inner cell mass also differentiate into 2 layers, which are hypoplast, the primitive endotherm, and the epiplast, the primitive ectoderm. Cells of the hypoplast and epiplast together form a flat disc referred to as the bilaminar amniotic disc. In addition, a small cavity appears within the epiplast and eventually enlarges to form an amniotic cavity. On the 9th day after fertilization, the blastocyte becomes completely abundant in the endometrium and small spaces called lacunae, which develop within the thomboplast. About the 12 days after fertilization, mesodermal cells derived from the yolk sac form a connective tissue around the amnion and yolk sac called the extra-amniotic mesoderm. By the end of the 2nd week of development, the bilaminar amniotic disc becomes connected to the thomboplast by a band of extra-embryonic mesoderm called the connective stack, which is the future umbilical cord.
This part is about 3rd week of development. This major event is called gastrulation. The ectoderm layers are the outermost layers. As the embryo develops, ectoderm layers develops into the epidermis of the skin and the nervous system. The endoderm is one of the germ layers formed during animal embryogenesis. The cell migrating inwards along the argenterum form the inner layer of the gastrula, which develop into endoderm. The endoderms consist of first of the flattened cells, which subsequently become columnar. They form the epithelial layer. The mesoderm is the middle layer. This process begins with the formation of primitive streaks on the surface of the epiblast. The cells of the layer move between the epiblast and hypoblast and begin to spread laterally and cranially. The cells of the epiblast move toward the primitive streaks and slip beneath in a process called invagination. It gives rise to the muscles, bones, circulatory systems, digestive system, kidney, and connective tissue. About 22 to 24 days after fertilization, mesodermal cells form a solid cylinder of cells called the notochord. It stimulates mesodermal cells to form parts of the backbones and intervertebral discs. The notochord also stimulates the ectodermal cells around it to form the neural plates. By the end of the third week, the lateral edges of the neural plates become more elevated and to form the neural fold. The depressed mid-region is called the neural groove. Generally, the neural flow approach each other and fuse, thus converting the neural plates into neural tubes. The neural tubes cells then develop into the brains and spinal cords. The process by which the neural plates, neural flow, and the neural tubes forms is called neuralization. The chorion, also called as chorionic villi, it has small finger-like projections. Food and oxygen from the mother and the waste product from the embryo is exchanged through this membrane, where the chorionic villi meet the maternal blood supply from the placenta. All of the yolk sac from a small vascularized outpouching called allantois. It is used for gases exchange and waste removal, but its only function in the earlier formation.
The 4 through 8 weeks of development are very significant in embryonic development because all major organs appear during this time. The term organogenesis refers to the formation of body organs and systems. During the 4th week after fertilization, the embryo undergoes very dramatic changes in shape and size. It is essentially converted from a flat two-dimensional embryonic disc to a three-dimensional cylinder, a process called embryonic folding. The cylinder consists of 3 layers, which is ectoderm, mesoderm, and endoderm. The outermost layer, ectoderm, will form brain, nervous system, and skin. Mesoderm will form heart, bone, muscle, and reproductive system. Endoderm, which is the innermost layer, will form intestine, lung, and other organs. The neural tube is formed opposite the somites. By 24 days, the first phalangeal arches are visible. The embryo is now slightly curved because of the head and tail folds. The heart produces a large ventral prominence and pumps blood. 3 pairs of phalangeal arches are visible by 26 days, and the rostral neuropore is closed. The forebrain produce a prominent elevation of the head, and folding of the embryo has given the embryo a C-shaped curvature. By the middle of the 4th week, the upper limbs begins their development as outgrowth of mesoderm covered by ectoderm called upper limb bud. By the end of the 4th week, the lower limb bud develop. The heart also forms a distinct projection on the ventral surface of the embryo called the heart prominence. At the end of the 4th week, the embryo has a distinctive tail. During the 5th week of the development, there is a very rapid development of the brain, so growth of the head is considerable. By the end of the 6th week, the head grows even larger relative to the trunk, and the limbs show substantial development. In addition, the neck and trunk begin to strengthen, and the heart is now 4-chambered. By the 7th week, the various regions of the limbs become distinct, and the beginnings of the digits appear. At the start of the 8th week, which is the final week of the embryonic period, the digits of the hand are short and webbed. The tail is shorter but still visible, the eyes are open, and the auricles of the ears are visible. By the end of the 8th week, all regions of limbs are apparent. The digits are distinct and no longer webbed due to the removal of cell with apoptosis. Also, the eyelids come together and may fuse. The tail disappears, and the external genital begins to differentiate. The embryo now has clearly human characteristics.
This 9th week, teeth are just beginning to form. The tongue, lips, and the nose are continuing to develop. The eyes are now more distinct with tiny eyelids to protect them. 10th week. Bones, limbs, and cartilage are start forming. Liver and kidney are formed and starting to function. Fetal waste products are excreted via umbilical cord. Week 14. Hair is starting to sprout on the fetus head. Simple facial gesture may now be visible on ultrasound, including grimacing and squinting. The fetal heartbeat may now be audible. Week 17. The developing fetus can begin to hear sounds like your heartbeat and the sound of your voice. Organs are now well developed. Your heart contracts, the kidney create urine, and the liver is starting to produce bile. Reflexes are more fully developed. The fetus hiccups, yawns, and moves around inside the womb. The fetus is able to make intricate facial gestures such as frowning or smiling. Gender can often be determined by ultrasound at this stage. A thin layer of hair called a nugo is start to grow. Your developing fetus now often hiccups as a means to practice breathing and swallows amniotic fluid in order to practice eating.
Most of the fetal internal organs are now in place and beginning to function well. The developing fetus is starting to grasp its hand and wiggle its fingers and toes. Nails are starting to form on the fingers and toes. The fetus immune system, including the lymph nodes, thymus, and spleen, are rapidly developing, a process that started during the early weeks of development. In this week, babies start to kick more vigorously. The developing baby's bones are beginning to harden and store iron, phosphorus, and calcium. Sexual organs are well developed. At this stage, baby boy's testicles may start to descend. Sometimes this process is a little delayed. Baby girl's ovaries now produce hormones and already contain millions of eggs. The baby's brain is now more fully developed, with speech and language centers in the process of development. As the baby prepares for delivery after about week 33, he or she will usually begin gradually rotating his or her head downward towards the birth canal. This is known as the head down position. At this stage, baby boy's testes have descended into the scrotum. Baby girl's vagina, clitoris, and labia majora are now well developed. In preparation for life outside the womb, the baby continues to practice breathing, moving around, sucking its thumb, and drinking. Immunoglobulins, also called antibodies, will help your baby fight infections throughout the baby's life. Until now, these important proteins have been delivered to your baby via the umbilical cord but will soon be provided through breast milk.